I think it's really important for the visual to be the buses for the Iowa Marching Band were parked on 4th Street about 100 yards from that entrance. Had they gone out the east side, they would have come out 150 yards from their buses. On Wednesday morning, September 19th, Darian Barton and I talked by phone. I shared what our institution's initial findings were. Gary and I mutually agreed there probably wasn't anything else we could do to resolve the issues that we were trying to deal with. However, we discussed the importance of improving things going forward and said it was going to be critical that we work together to do that. We had a very good discussion, very caring, very professional. I have the utmost respect for Gary Barton. We talked about it and just felt the most important thing we could do at that particular time was to move forward and issue a joint statement to demonstrate that we were going to work together and that fan behavior just had to improve. On Thursday afternoon, September 19th, I read, and so the release went out on Wednesday afternoon, September 19th. On Thursday, I read an account of a media interview Gary Barton did with the Gazette, where he publicly confirmed that they had closed their investigation and were moving forward. On Thursday afternoon, September 19th, Gary Barton copied me on a response to an email that was sent to both Gary and to me from a fan suggesting we cancel the football series. And I quote Gary Barton's response: "We, the University of Iowa, don't have any plans to discontinue the game." On Friday afternoon, September 20th, we learned through media reports that the University of Iowa was reopening the investigation. On Monday afternoon, September 23rd, members of the media made us aware of a video stating the future of the Cy-Hawk game was in jeopardy. The media asked us to respond to a quote, "Something really bad happened in Ames." Before I bring Mike up, I would just conclude with, we really care. Those that know me know we welcome every marching band. It's part of the collegiate environment. We've got 3 bands coming here yet this year. It pains me to think that this incident could result in not only the series not being played, but that those young men and young women in the bands wouldn't get to perform. Our university investigated this to its fullest, and Chief Newton will explain that. But the statement that something really bad happened has created another narrative, that there's something else out there that wasn't part of those 5 allegations. And we're here to say if there is, then somebody needs to come forward and share that with us. Because our team will do everything possible to find out what that was. But if somebody is not going to share that with us, then our hands are really tied. There's not much else we can do. I also know that we've reached out to the University of Iowa Athletics Department in the last 12 hours and asked them to confirm, did we have your 5 allegations correct? And is there anything else that's been brought forward to you since last Tuesday? And the answer is no. At this time, I'd like to call Chief Newton to the podium to explain what was involved in the investigation.
We went out and we interviewed the police officers who were working. We had a number of police officers. We had very detailed plans on the security and safety that we put into the stadium and the operations of the day. Reviewed every piece of information that was out there available to us, that was here that we could go through. Reached out to my counterpart at the University of Iowa just to make sure, hey, do you have anything new that's come forward? He was able to reiterate to me the same 5 points that the athletic director had given. I've been in constant contact with the University of Iowa Police to make sure that if anything comes in, that we're prepared to respond to that, and we would launch an investigation as soon as a complainant were to come forward on that. What I do know is the University of Iowa had 4 police officers with the band. Not any of those officers reported any incidents to us. We checked in with those officers throughout the day. I had staff that would go up and meet with them. They did confirm that during the game there were some fans that were heckling, which we would expect sometimes happens, unfortunately. But those officers went and talked to those fans and were able to get those fans to stop their behaviors. One of the incidents that really stuck out was that the exiting of the band. And you heard a description of how that looked and how the band exited. They were marching in formation, they were playing their instruments, they were playing the Hawkeye fight song, and they were going through a crowd of 1,000+ people. It was just shoulder to shoulder during that time. I did have officers in that area besides the 4 officers who were with the band. I have spoken with those officers. The officers had said there was a skirmish that kind of broke out, and their description of a skirmish was there was some pushing and shoving because they were pushing the backs of people as they marched aggressively out of the stadium. They were marching faster than the people can walk in that area, to give you a little bit of a visual, and playing their instruments. The officers immediately recognized that there was some pushing and shoving, and they responded to that, and they went in to make sure that the band could safely exit the area. They were thanked by some of the band members, some of the cheerleaders for being there, and then they helped get them back to their bus. During that time, not a single individual reported any, from the band, reported any confrontation to the law enforcement officers. Following that, the University of Iowa police officer did go on the buses and was with the band, and nobody reported any incidents to that officer. And I've confirmed that. I talked with my colleague at the University of Iowa last night. We're cooperating, talking with each other every day, trying to figure out what we can do in this case. What I do know is there's been no people that have come forward as of this morning to report anything to us. We deeply care. We want somebody to come forward. Please tell us. If you tell us, we will investigate to the fullest, and we will make sure that we try to find those responsible for any incident that did happen. The area was very congested. That's the only thing I could go off on this at this point. We did look at all the other points that were brought out, and we really, until somebody comes forward, there's nothing else that we can do on an investigation at this point. And at this point, we'll take questions.
Allegations that were shared with us on Tuesday, September 18th, from their deputy athletics director, were the following. A teaching assistant for the marching band had beer thrown on them. Number 2, something was thrown at the football team's bus, not the band's bus, but the football team's bus, during or shortly after the game, fortunately when the players and coaches were not present, that cracked the windshield of the bus. 3, the Hawkeye Band director and the ISU director of facilities had a verbal altercation on the field as the Iowa Band was beginning to exit the field stadium. 4, following the game, a member of the Iowa Marching Band tried to enter the Bergstrom football complex through the Iowa State football team's locker room entrance and was denied entrance to the facility, resulting in a confrontation between the band member and security personnel. And number 5, a member of the marching band who was carrying a ladder suffered broken ribs as the result of a band member being shoved and falling on the ladder while the band member was exiting the field with the band. And those have been confirmed again as of this morning to make sure we had those 5 exactly the way they shared them to us last Tuesday.
So no allegations of sexual assault?
None. But I would follow up on that and say, if that did happen, that's horrific, and somebody needs to tell us, because that's something that should be investigated to its fullest extent. But nobody, as Chief Newton has said, and the University of Iowa has reported, no one has alleged that to us.
The confrontation between the band member and security, was that physical confrontation?
No, it was verbal, and it was over the band exiting the field.
The band, the person carrying the ladder, was that person jostled by band members, or was that person jostled by Iowa State bands?
Care to answer that one?
So on the case of the ladder, we know that from what we believe happened, we don't know the specifics of the when, where, why, and how, So we're still seeking that information. If somebody has that information, it will help us investigate. But we were able to review video from gate 5 as the band was exiting. We're able to follow the ladder, and we don't see anything happen during that time. We don't see, the band continues to move during that time. They continue forward, there's never a stop, so we're not sure when that incident would have happened. So if we were given some more details, we would go through and review other evidence that we may have to see when that took place.
Jamie, is it possible that, okay, you've already said that you believe these allegations, or at least some of them, is that accurate?
What I said is I believe that their marching band was subjected to vulgarity, rudeness, and possibly had allegations we haven't been able to really verify through the university's investigation what really happened in those situations.
As Iowa State's, you said Iowa State's band has been subjected to some verbal stuff, some rudeness in Iowa City. Is that accurate? You said that?
I've had multiple Iowa State University current and former band members since this incident has become public share with us that they have had vulgarity, rudeness, beer, everything that my guess happened to the Iowa band has happened to our band multiple times. Does not make it, and I want to be, I mean, I said, it's embarrassing that that's happened. It's inexcusable, but it's happened in both places. And Gary and I said that in the joint statement.
If Iowa State knew of Iowa State's band being treated that way in Iowa City, did Iowa State bring it to the attention of University of Iowa?
You know, through the course of time, I think we all talk about it, but it's one of those things that it's just, you know, as Chief Newton alluded to, that the police officer said, you know, unfortunately, you don't have to look very far in our society to see how people behave. And it's really hard to police that. You know, and that's going to be our challenge going forward, is, you know, we all need to take responsibility more for our words and our actions. It's unacceptable to say those things. And why people think it's acceptable is beyond me. You know, but all we can do is ask for people's help. You know, and I've experienced it when I've been over in Iowa City. And I'm sure their administration's experienced it here.
My counterpart at the University of Iowa, I've encouraged them to have those students reach out to us. They put a statement out to the band from their associate athletic director, encouraging the students to reach out. I made arrangements with the University of Iowa Police Department that they would take the initial intake for those. They would get the name, the contact information, a little bit of a description of what happened, and then they would forward those cases to us because we would be the appropriate jurisdiction to investigate those. At this point, the University of Iowa Police have not, after that was put out to the band, have still not received any word from those band members.
Why not just contact them directly?
A victim needs to come forward to police first. Generally, the police don't reach out to a victim. And actually, from the social media reports and other reports that are out there, I don't know that those folks are the victims. You know, they're saying these things happen. It doesn't appear that, from ones I've seen, that people are saying that happened to them necessarily. Any criminal actions. I get the sense from my colleague that they have the same information we have right now, and they have not gotten more direct from any potential victims in this. And so they continually encourage, just as we're doing, of, hey, we care, please tell us, and we'll investigate.
We have a very few fans that decide to behave in a rude and inappropriate manner. And so we feel good about the fans that come to Jack Trice Stadium. So we are also, though, recognizing that we need to work with President Harold and President Nook to think, what are the actions that could improve the environment and improve safety? So we're going to have those conversations, and I look forward to them.
I just watched a video this week, it was yesterday, from the visiting coach from the football game on Saturday, where he specifically talked about how wonderful and professional the environment was at Iowa State. He said it was the best he's ever seen. He said we were winning a game 70-20, and the defense, the second or third string defense, got a standing ovation from a full crowd at the end of the game. So I am bothered by the fact that some alleged incidents have grown into a indictment of a whole group of fans that have demonstrated for years that they are about as good of fans as you're going to find in the country. And I hear about that from my peers all the time, about how awesome the environment is in Ames, Iowa.
President Winters.
I was able to compare this Cy-Hawk game to the 2017 one, and actually fan behavior was better. We had less arrests, a longer day than we had in the previous one. So we're seeing that there are some changes, but I do believe that nationally the message is out there that there are some fans, small percentage, right, that cause us issues that we need to be able to address. And developing some type of programming that will help bring the civility to these games and to the sporting events. I absolutely think we have to have the conversation. Is it appropriate to heckle other fans? It's not appropriate. You know, and if people come and talk to us and tell us about the behaviors of our fans, we immediately go in and address that, either through our CSC security folks or a police officer. Generally, we have CSC as our first line, and then law enforcement comes in if people are going to continue their behaviors. I think we have to have a broader conversation on it. Two years ago during the Cy-Hawk game, we ran our Be a Fan in the Stand, Not a Pain in the Grass campaign. And you know, we want to push that the message is that we need to treat each other respectfully. You know, we live by the principles of community at Iowa State University, and being respectful is one of those. And our fans, we need to get them on board with that. And the majority of our fans are, right? It's a very small percentage that are causing our issues.
And I would add, again, to that is, yes, it's a national issue, and as Chief Newton said, we can always do better locally. We always need to challenge ourselves. But let's not also lose sight of what happens here, and quite honestly happens in Kinnick, for the most part, are model crowds. You know, I have peers around the country that talk to me all the time about, what are you all doing in Ames, Iowa, because it's so special. It's such a great environment. Your fans are so passionate. They're so well cast that weekend into such a negative light. Because had that not happened, many of you in the audience right now had either written or were writing what a wonderful week it was for this state to have game day here and to have all the national publicity about how awesome Iowa, not Iowa State or the University of Iowa, but how awesome Iowans are around the Cy-Hawk game.